The losses in the Canadian housing market are staggering and they're stacking up, and more people, unfortunately, are losing their homes every single day. This trend is just beginning, and unfortunately, it's going to skyrocket as we get into here and discuss what's going on, and I show you the facts of what people are saying and what's really happening out there. So this was on Poverty Finance Canada. Lost my house today. Woke up to 5 RCMP officers at my door to kick me out. No resources have capacity to take my kittens. I've only got $1 to my name. Just when I think life can't get worse, it gets worse. And this is what's happening for so many people. And the reason why the shelters are all full of cats and dogs is for the same reason, actually. It's that people cannot afford them. And it is a very sad situation, but that's just unfortunately what people do. And another thing that is such an indicator and a sign of the times is IKEA permanently closing a Toronto location. I mean, this couldn't be a bigger warning shot, because obviously IKEA is affordable furniture and it's actually good, decent quality furniture. And IKEA has been a love for most Canadians, and now they're closing a location down in Toronto. Obviously, they're not closing all their locations, but just the fact that they are contracting their business just shows what it's like for the housing bubble. And obviously we went through this, but I'll just show you again. This is the worst correction in home prices in history. So just in case you're under any illusion that this is not bad and it's just a minor bump in the road,
itsy bitsy little gully right now,
then you need to take a look at this, and this comes from Bloomberg. This is the worst correction in history. And if you look on this chart here, you can see 1981, 1982, that was nearly as big as 2022, 2024, but this is the worst downturn ever in terms of housing, and the losses, they don't stop. And now you've got places like Calgary that are also turning, and those were places that were booming just a year ago. So you've got a Calgary condo that sold for $450 in 2024, just sold for $317,000. That is $133,000 gone in just 13 months. That's 30% lost in 13 months. And I broke down the math here. That's $10,230 a month. That's $2,362 a week. That's $337 lost per day. And if the house was working an 8-hour shift, that would be $42 an hour that it was losing. That is more than people earn in the majority of places in Alberta and even Calgary. So you've got Alberta was calling, they said, but it turns out it was just a collection call. And you guys heard the adverts. We all heard the adverts. Like, it was so stupid and dumb, but
hey, Toronto, thinking about moving out of Ontario? Why not consider Alberta? It has higher salaries, lower taxes, and a lower cost of living. I moved recently, and I feel I'm already getting ahead faster here than I would in other provinces. If you're thinking about moving, Alberta is definitely worth considering.
Alberta is calling. Learn more at albertaiscalling.ca. A message from the Government of Alberta.
Unfortunately, a lot of people once again got convinced by a government propaganda campaign. And then you've got Shazzy, more and more people losing their homes. As I said at the start of this video, power of sale, 45% loss in obviously Brampton, which is actually the mortgage fraud mecca.
They will do some documentation showing that you guys are making more, and they'll get you qualified.
And the center of all types of fraud, actually. But $750,000 lost. And, in 2021, they bought this for $1.65 million. What were they thinking back then? I can't lose. This is just going to go up forever. And they just sold it for $900,000. And they didn't sell it. The bank took it and they sold it. And that's the reality of what's going on in Ontario. And if you think that is bad, I mean, this is a 70% loss. This is absolutely staggering. So it's a $578,000 loss. Somebody bought this for $835,000 in 2022, spent 3 years pretty much on the market and just sold for $257,000. I mean, that is absolutely insane.
I think I want my money back.
These are the types of declines that you saw in places like Las Vegas, in Nevada during the 2008 financial crisis and the housing crash in 2008, even though actually that crash actually started in 2006, and that's what a lot of people don't realize. And then even BMO, which is a bank that has done a lot of lending into this housing bubble, is coming out and they're saying Canadian real estate resembles the US bubble. But guess what, guys? This time is different. There's going to be no bad consequences for the Canadian banks because they're just rock solid and people aren't losing their homes.
Starting with number 1 here. There's 13 units. Here we have power of sale. Number 3, power of sale. Number 4, power of sale. No notice on that one. Number 5, power of sale. Number 6, power of sale. Number 7, power of sale. Number 8, power of sale. And we have number 10, power of sale. Number 11, power of sale. Number 12, power of sale. Number 13, power of sale. And number 14, power of sale.
Well, they are losing their homes. We've just been over that. So that's definitely happening. One of Canada's largest banks just delivered more bad news for real estate investors. It's a bubble already deflating. Yeah, we already knew that 3 years ago.
Another thing I talk about a lot is a doom loop, and I want to explain what that is visually for you. So basically, let's say home prices go down. That means unemployment goes up. That means defaults go up. That means home prices go down. And this just goes round and round and round until eventually it all bleeds out the system. All that excess leverage, all the speculation is driven out of the system.
BMO Capital Markets warns that home prices have been sliding for over 3 years, more closely resembling the US housing crash in 2007 than Ontario's last correction. The bank expects a long, drawn-out recovery, cautioning it's next to impossible to recreate the conditions that fueled the boom. And that's the complete opposite of what RBC is actually thinking is going to happen. That is, the real estate market is starting to reignite and it's going to rip in 2026. But is that going to happen? It remains to be seen. And that's what the Real Estate Association, of course, is thinking. So this is basically comparing the bear markets here. You've got Ontario 1990 in the light blue, Ontario current in the dark blue, and then the US in 2007 in the orange. And you can basically see years from peak, it stretches out here. And you could see that by this chart, if it was exactly the same, that means you've got about a year and a half to 2 years left of this correction before prices start rising. That's not saying they're going back to their peak. That is a lot longer away. You could be looking at another 6-7 years until they reach a new high. And you've got to ask the question, are they going to outpace inflation? So is it going to be a worthwhile investment? And I just don't think real estate in Canada is ever going to be outpacing inflation. It's going to be much like the UK, which has not seen home prices exceed the 2008 high apart from 1 or 2 months in 2020. It really hasn't seen it because inflation has been a lot higher. And that's if you're looking at the CPI. So it's obviously a lot worse than that. We know the underlying data. So it says here, most people are surprised by the above chart for 2 reasons. First, Ontario home prices have been falling for more than 3 years since the start of 2022, but it's not a crash, guys. Remember that.
I think I want my money back.
Despite record population growth that began in 2022 and peaked in 2023. Second, the trajectory looks strikingly similar to the US housing crash that kicked off in 2007. Again, that was before the banking crisis that happened, and that is worth noting there. Even Canada's state-owned mortgage insurer has recently argued that this time is different. It always is until it isn't. I mean, it's just utterly hilarious, these broken institutions. I mean, CMHC should just be completely scrapped. That housing organization is not helping any person afford a home. It's just distorting the market and it's helped fuel the bubble. It's done the opposite of make home prices affordable, which is absolutely hilarious. And then you've got business investment per capita, Canada versus the United States. And you can pretty much see how this has been going straight down since 2015. So it's not just a consequence of US tariffs. This is a consequence of red tape and bureaucracy, essentially, which Canada has obviously obviously been fueling. And then if you go onto this chart, you can say Canada business capex if you exclude residential. And again, this has just absolutely collapsed ever since 2015. And just before, you basically had the oil crash that happened. And obviously there was a big recession that happened in Alberta. But since then, and the Liberals got elected, and they've been pursuing this climate net zero agenda pushed by the World Economic Forum and other NGO organizations, you've basically seen this just drop and drop and drop. And if you look at the population bubble that is deflating here, I mean, this is unprecedented when you really think about this chart. It goes all the way back to 61, and you've now got it just absolutely collapsing. And a lot of the growth that Canada relied on to pump up its numbers were coming from this. And we've said before how the housing bubble was not directly caused by immigration. Obviously, that influences a lot because it impacts the rental market, it fuels investor demand, which can then fuel a speculative mania. But really, it's just that classic bubble psychology and mentality that you see. So Canada is on a terrible trajectory. More people, unfortunately, are going to lose their homes, and this is just going to continue, and there is no end in sight right now. And believe it or not, I'd let you know when I see one. If you've enjoyed this video, I would highly recommend you check out this video here. Please subscribe to the channel and turn on all your notifications, as YouTube is having a load of problems right now and you might not be seeing the videos. And if you want to help support my work, then you can do so by getting the best VPN, that is ExpressVPN. I will see you in the next one.